see. Is the stream actually live? I got the stream element says that we're live, so we're probably live. Tonight's geology lecture is the Mount Baker Exotic Terrains with UW's Daryl Cohen and US Forest Service Gary Polnall on the Yellow Aster Butte Trail north of Mount Baker. This is presented by Central Washington University's Nick Zentner. He is the geology professor there. His talks are great. Putting in the chat the link to this video, and without that, I'm going to kick it off to Nick, and then we're going to play some single-player survival Minecraft, and that will be the jam. Hopefully my baby will sleep until the morning. It seems very unlikely, but we will see how it goes.
Hi everybody, this is Mount Shuckson in northern Washington, USA. Thanks for joining us. Beautiful Monday evening in the Mount Baker area, up near Bellingham, Washington. And I'm with two very special guests, Backcountry Gary from the US Forest Service and University of Washington geology professor Daryl Cohen. So we're going to take advantage of this amazing place and think about exotic terrains for the most part. Exotic terrains, not Cascade volcanoes like Mount Baker, not lahars, not which volcanoes are alive, not volcanic hazards, but instead surrounding that Mount Baker volcano are these exotic terrains that we've been studying a couple of years ago. They are key players in the Baja BC series. It's upcoming. Thank you for joining us. Let's get started.
So was Chris, the cameraman.
All right, Gary, come on, man. I mean, thank you for arranging this, for making sure that we get out there and see this country. Am I correct? Am I looking at Mount Shuckson?
Oh, that is Mount Shuckson and the White Salmon Glacier there. Mount Shuckson is almost a mile higher than we are at this point, so it's way up there.
Oh my God.
And then you can see the White Salmon Lodge over here.
Okay, let me zoom in, and if you can just keep the narration going. White Salmon Lodge, is that a ski lodge?
Yeah, that's the base of the Mount Baker ski area.
Okay. What direction are we looking generally?
We're looking pretty much east.
Okay.
From here.
And how much of that is the glacier? Is that just that massive body up high in the saddle?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then off to the right-hand side there's a little bit more of the ever-shrinking ice mass on Mount Shuckson.
Sure.
A little bit of the Price Glacier on the left-hand side, and then the very far left is Nooksack Tower. You can barely see poking out.
Oh, okay.
There.
I'm going to zoom even more, I think. This is great. Gosh sakes.
That's a big rock.
And
Understatement.
to use your expertise, can we swing north and just keep some of our kind of orientation going here?
Yeah, so we're looking now over towards Nooksack Ridge, and the high point up there above the green meadows is Mount Sephret. And Mount Sephret is, that's Gabbro.
Up at the top.
At the top, and I think a bunch of the bottom also is Gabbro.
God. I was just talking about Gabbro with Mount Si, for goodness sake.
Well, there's some up there. This is younger than Mount Si.
Okay.
Gabbro.
All right. So you've been all over Shuckson, I'm guessing, or on all sides. Is it similar on the east side, Gary?
No, the backside is Nooksack Cirque, and it is, as some have described it, the deepest, darkest hole in the North Cascades, because it drops from the top up there down to the bottom. You got 6,000 plus feet of instant relief. The East Nooksack Glacier is kind of draped across the middle of the face, and waterfalls pouring out. Is Ice Peak, which, oddly enough, even though it's tall, but it's beautiful granite that comes down on that side into the cirque. So he goes granite, up granite, green blue schist. It's a kind of a glacial looking wasteland back there, basically. Very spectacular spot.
And so from the top of Shuck looking east, you're looking down and the Straight Creek Fault is down in there miles away, or is it?
There's a bunch of fault would be, but you don't see it because it's all completed by Chilliwack.
Of course.
So the Straight Creek Fault, there's a point where it kind of disappears just northeast of Marble Mount, where oddly it intersects the Ant.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you don't see it anymore until you get to the other side up in Canada, I believe.
This is replant, yes.
Oh, that big white one, you mean? Yeah, I think that's Mount Baker over there with the glaciers on it, and we can see Three Fingers and White Horse and Hugh and Sloan, some of the Monte Cristos, Watson, Glacier Peak.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a great big cell over Ross Lake, it looks like, but we got Mount Shuckson and Ruth Mountain and the Hannigan Caldera there with the little snow glacier patch on the left, and way back there is Mount Challenger and the Crystalline Core, Northern Picket Range.
We'll be hanging a lantern off of that at some point.
Oh my God. Okay.
Slowly but surely.
Basically on the top here. Do you want to pull this out, Daryl, or you want me to?
Yeah.
Let's see. Which one? Maybe that one?
No. We could add one at the top.
Well, Mount Baker over here, it's a young stratovolcano. I think people were saying that's like 43,000 years old.
3,000.
And we're on top of Table Mountain. And I think this is the edge. I'm not sure if this is the edge of the flow or not, which is about 300.
Okay.
Then, of course, we swing around over to Mount Shuckson in the eastern. Now I said it was on his map, the Eastern Metamorphic Suite.
You fell for the trail.
You meant Shuckson. That's all right. It happens.
And then over we got some of the reds. I don't know what the red stuff is, but that's going up Shuckson Arm. It's a combination of the Chilliwack group, Darrington Phyllite, quite a ways over. I think that's where your cliffs start that you got stuck on, Daryl. And then Shuckson Blue Schist, Green Schist. And then to the left of Mount Shuckson over there, again, Ruth Mountain is the edge of the 3.7 million year old Hannigan Caldera. Well, the Mount Baker area has been, it's been extremely popular for recreation, all types of recreation for 100 years.
Yeah.
And of course, that's just grown in more recent years. There was a push back in the 90s to, the budgets were going down a lot, and there's a push to set up a recreation fee system, which happened down here for the Heather Meadows area specifically.
Heather Meadows, okay.
You're looking at Heather Meadows down here, and a good chunk of the Mount Baker ski area.
Okay. So that has exploded recently, or it's been a kind of a steady growth?
It's been continually growing. Yeah, as has use on these trails. This one that we're on here, Table Mountain, was rebuilt in the I think the late 80s. The trails down here on Artist Point have been rebuilt. The backcountry use has increased. We've had work done on the Hannigan Pass Trail, which goes up to Hannigan Pass, which is up Ruth Creek on the other side of the Nooksack Ridge, Mount Separate here. We've had projects on the trail that goes up to the old Goat Mountain Lookout, which is straight across from us here. So we've rebuilt puncheon bridges down in the woods there and had some little trail relocation projects kind of up as you approach the meadows on there. There's groups very active. The Mount Baker Hiking Club takes care of the Winchester Mountain Lookout, and a lot more volunteer work. One of the interesting things that happened is in 2009, the designation of the Pacific Northwest National Scenic Trail, which is kind of a partner of the Pacific Crest National Scenic Trail that everybody's heard of, but this one goes from Glacier National Park on the Continental Divide to Cape Alava on the Pacific Ocean, and it comes right through here down Ruth Creek, and trying to figure out how to get it off the roads down there and get it up here into the ski area onto the trail system you can see below. Crosses Austin Pass and goes down Swift Creek down to Baker Lake, which you can see down below, and continues around the south side of Mount Baker and out into Skagit Flats and across the water to Port Townsend and through the Olympic Peninsula, and yeah, it's quite an undertaking. So right there you got one of the largest chunks of blue schist, green schist sticking out. And then you go to the other side of Mount Baker and you got one of the biggest chunks of dunite.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point.
And it's like the same distance the other side of Baker as Shuckson is on this side. Yeah. Just to the right in the background there is Mount Hagen. And then way back there, there's a little white thing, and that's Dome Peak. And Dome Peak's interesting. That's in Nepequa schist, intruded by Cloudy Pass, batholith. And then the next white one over there is appropriately named Bacon Peak. Yeah. Why? I don't know. But Bacon and Mount Ann is the one right here in front of us, which is right above Lake Ann. Yeah, Glacier Peak's kind of being a little coy in the clouds back there still.
Oh, I think the wife is texting me.
One of the areas on the south side there, below the Sulphur Moraine, there's a section of trail built there, the Scott Paul Trail, and that's really popular, beautiful trail. There's a Pacific Northwest National Scenic Trail. There's kind of looking at possibly bringing that up onto the southeast side of the mountain for some distance. It gets very difficult up on the north side. There's some over here too, the Boulder River Canyon, Rainbow Canyon, Mazama, where the deep glacial cut gorges are very difficult to figure out how you would navigate your way through there.
Shuckson, Mount Baker volcano. Flies. Not many. Flowers. Many.
Yeah, there's many flowers out there. It's a really pretty trail.
Tuesday morning with Backcountry Gary and geology professor extraordinaire Daryl Cowan.
I'm going to replant this one, but here to help encourage more spread. Maybe one of these ones too.
I wish you could smell the smells that are here.
Oh yeah, the warm huckleberry. Or mountain blueberry, as they are called here, because we actually have something different called a huckleberry that's here. So there's that.
Look at the size of there's a piece of amphibolite in here.
This thing.
Yeah, I mean, it has a different texture, finer grained, but
So all these, like this blob right here.
yeah, I think those are exactly, yeah, this one. This is indeed a mixture. We want to use the term melange, which we could talk about a little bit later, but the inclusion of these blocks, like right there in back of Gary, that's a big block of amphibolite. And around the edges, you can see the shiny, scaly, serpentinized ultramafic rock. You can pick up the pieces down here.
My God.
And see how.
You kidding me?
How shiny they are. Yeah. Like here. This is all serpentinite. Shiny, scaly serpentinite. But that's amphibolite. So is this. So we have blocks of metabasalt that have been metamorphosed to amphibolite, caught up in a matrix of serpentinite. And this scaly fabric is an expression of how it flows in a like a ductile way.
Oh.
Fabric that we can see in here.
So there's so many questions here, but what are you confident with? Where are we doing the flowing? Are we out in the ocean?
I think we're doing it in the Shuxon thrust, broadly defined. We're below the Shuxon metamorphic suite, which you can see way back there. Right there. Goat Mountain is Darrington phyllite. That's part of the.
Okay.
So we are structurally below the Darrington phyllite, but it's not a sharp line. It's a zone of mixing. And this happened not on the ocean floor, I don't think, but the mystery about this imbricate zone is we picked up a variety of rock types like yellow aster gneiss, which we haven't really looked at yet, metamorphosed basaltic rocks, serpentinite. There are slices in here of the Chilliwack group, which is the next unit below the Shuxon thrust. I guess we should say this has also been called the Bell Pass Melange.
I was going to just ask, so is this a unit or is this just a thrust fault? Are we calling this a thrust fault zone, or are we calling this a separate exotic unit, or does it matter?
I think for the purposes of mapping, like Ralph Hagrid and Roland Tabor, they wanted to have a mappable unit that showed on a map with a name, a specific name. So they called it the Bell Pass Melange from Bell Pass, which is over by Baker Lake, I think. But it's the same zone on a map scale. You can see it. So you want to give a
let's walk this way.
You want to give a unit name to something that appears on a geologic map, so it can have a little box with a color in it over in the explanation.
Right.
That's basically what they've done.
So let's just run with that, because that's what I was doing a couple of years ago in the backyard. I had the Bell Pass Melange as a mappable unit. Right, had all sorts of little, blender type items in there. It's all mixed up. Either Gary or Daryl, how do you see the Bell Pass Melange running through this countryside? Is it just right here? Do you have any sense of?
Well, we could if we went out and looked at Mount Shuxon, remember Shuxon Arm,
right.
that's Bell Pass Melange.
The same, that's orange we were looking at last night.
On the geologic map, that would show up as Bell Pass Melange because it's below the Shuxon metamorphic suite and above.
Let's keep walking over here.
Chilliwack.
Okay.
I can just put some of these in decoratively.
In my mind, that's Chilliwack.
Okay, now that's important. You mean way up on top there, or even right in front of us here?
Right where the cliff bands start.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's that weird.
I see stripy stuff.
Yeah, and you see the side of the orange.
Okay, that
orange stuff with like a.
That's Bell Pass. Yes, definitely. That's a great picture of the whole idea of a melange is a mixture of blocks of various sizes in a finer grained matrix of serpentinite or mudstone. And I can see, just looking up there, I can see the blocks probably in foliated serpentinite. These are great exposures.
So if you're willing to play along with me, go ahead, Gary.
Sure. Yeah, that could be, I think that might be yellow aster, but I don't know. It's got a layering in it, different compositions. But
this should be
tools
and equipment.
I just do my basic mind is it's light colored. It's more like the nice yellow aster.
Yellow aster, nice.
I think, and then the Chilliwack would be the darker stuff up, going up to the top of the butte up there.
Okay. So Daryl, just off the top of your head, we've done videos recently from the Ingalls ophiolite. Weathers to a rusty orange, green inside. If I didn't know anything better, I'd call this Ingalls for all I know, if I was just blindfolded and sat here. So what's different here, age-wise or structural position, or is there any reason to think about the Ingalls or the Josephine when you look at some of this stuff here?
Yeah, the big difference is the Ingalls and the Josephine, we know the age because of isotopic work, but also there are sediments that are on top of it that have fossils.
Okay.
We don't know anything about the age of these ultramafic rocks here. There's just no way to date them because they're out of their ophiolite. Ingalls and Josephine is a beautiful sequence, you know, from mantle rocks, pillow lavas, maybe dikes, and then overlying sediments. Here we just have scraps of mantle. I'm not going to say oceanic mantle, we don't know, but these are mantle rocks. But we have no idea what the age is.
Because they're so jumbled up.
Yeah, there's no way to date them. Ultramafic rocks are very hard to date isotopically, get a number, and I don't. That's not my field, but I don't.
No, that's fine.
I don't think, but that's a big difference. So,
Okay.
so we wouldn't want to correlate these with any well-known.
Okay. Yeah.
Ultramafic rocks and ophiolitic rocks in the Cascades.
Good. Thank you. And just to jog my memory, and maybe the viewers as well, tons of Chilliwack, which is a separate exotic terrain up high. Can you give us just the most broad strokes about the Chilliwack age and how this relates to, let's say, the Shuckson that we saw last night?
I think the broad strokes are it's an upper Paleozoic volcanic arc, and it has limestones in it that are full of I think Carboniferous and maybe Permian fossils. I don't know about right here, but that at Chilliwack Mountain, which is the type locality, are beautiful folded limestone. So we have an upper Paleozoic rock that is not nearly as metamorphosed as what we're walking on right here, amphibolites, and it's widespread, and it occupies this intermediate structural position below the Shuckson and above the Nooksack.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's its position. And
Good.
the reason you use the term exotic is it's another thing that just doesn't fit. We don't know, you know, where it came from. It's part of an arc, but where's the rest of it? Should I mention it's a hat without a head? You know, we've got this thin, relatively extensive but thin sheet of rock that's missing. It's obviously a piece of something larger. We don't know where that was or where the rest of it is. So one of the interesting rock types in this Bel Pass melange, which is kind of an orphan, is the yellow aster gneiss, which I think Peter Misch defined and named from yellow aster meadows across the corner, but it has different rock types in it, but one of the components is a calc silicate gneiss, and this is well layered, well foliated, got some quartz veins in it, but the gray color here, I would bet that if you had a bottle of hydrochloric acid and you put it on here, it would fizz. So I think the gray is indicative of the calcareous component, and the lighter color layers are probably the silicate. So it probably started as a mud, calcium carbonate mud with sandy layers in it. That's where you get the silica and the calcium carbonate. And then it, when it gets metamorphosed, the gray color, I think, is my guess without hydrochloric acid is carbonate.
So this is a block of the Chilliwack limestone?
No, it's yellow aster. This is yellow aster.
Oh,
it's
sorry,
highly metamorphosed.
Okay. Yeah.
And its age is still somewhat, I won't say in dispute, but maybe still being worked on, but probably lower Paleozoic in age.
So old for up around here.
Yeah, it's the oldest.
It's the oldest
rock the oldest rock, we don't know the age of the ultramafic rocks, but the oldest rock in the Northwest Cascades.
Gary, do you have another one nearby?
Well, yeah, right up here.
In fact, the Cascades in general. Yeah.
Let's wander this way.
This side of Rocky Mountains, basically.
You have to go to easternmost Washington and Idaho to get Belt, but anywhere west of the Columbia River, I think this is the oldest rock.
Huh.
Oh, now look at
Think
that.
about this fellow here.
That I think is a volcanic rock with pieces of like pumice in it. I think that might be a good candidate for Chilliwack. You can see it's fragments. It's been deformed. It's got a little foliation in it, but there's still big chunks. I think that's a volcanic breccia that likely came from Chilliwack, but that's a quick and dirty guess.
Okay, well, I can't hold it. What have we taken? 13 steps from
There you go.
from the thrust belt, the Belpass Melange, to the Chilliwack, to the Yellow Aster Gneiss. Looming over us is the Mount Shuckson itself. Mount Baker right around the corner. What an amusement park this place is.
It is.
Disneyland, some might say.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh, better than Disney.
Copyright trademark.
Yeah.
Gee.
This is yeah, it is. This is hard, but you know this could be Chilliwack. Look, they look like lenses here. Got it? There's another one up there. So this could be a lens, and that's known in this Belpass Melange. There are lenses of Chilliwack incorporated, which is not unexpected because look what's up on top of here. You could abrade and pluck off pieces of the wall rock on either side of the Belpass Melange.
Oh, it's squirrely up here, I'll tell you. My Lord.
Wow. More serpentinite.
Let's see.
That seems to be, remember when we use the term melange, it's blocks in a matrix. And the matrix here, I think, is the serpentinite. Other places like California, the matrix is scaly mud, not serpentinite, or it could be serpentinite. But oh, this is beautiful. Yeah, just shiny serpentinite.
I'll trade you. Is this more of your Yellow Aster Gneiss?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think calc-silicate again. It's the gray and it weathers in kind of a distinctive way.
My
Your
heavens.
foot's right on one there too.
My heavens. This is overload. Forget about the scenery and everything else.
You can just feel that.
Yeah,
It just feels limestone.
It has a. Do you have any hydrochloric acid in your condo?
It's kind of a personal question, Carol.
Take off a little piece, and when you get back to
Do we have a lemon?
Ellensburg, I don't know if that's acidic enough, but you know, you should test. You should test. Yeah, we'll take this home, or I'll take it home. I've got some HCl.
Oh my God, Liz brought all the packs up here. Thank you,
Get a
dear.
picture, Gary. You want to kind of look at that rock, and I want to get famous Mount Shuckson in the thing. I can see Shuckson Arm barely, so that's the same tectonic zone we're in. Beautiful. Perfect, yes. Wow. Yeah, yeah.
Gary, this is the Yellow Aster Butte Trail,
Yellow Aster Butte Trail.
and that landmark right over your shoulder.
Winchester Mountain. That's
Win-
where we were. One of our other alternative destinations up there.
Winchester Mountain. You're not mic'd up at the moment, so yeah, would you mind just a couple other, I'll get the mic close to you here. For those that want to come out here and hike, this is prime time weather-wise for it, and it's a day hike, you know, I mean, come on, none of us are 23 anymore, so you can do this hike if you have moderate abilities.
Well, we got old guys up here.
Yes, we do. Can you point out a couple of
so we got Winchester Mountain up here to the left, and then going over we have the Twin Peaks of Goat Mountain, and we have Swamp Creek down below us. And as Daryl was pointing out, Mount Shuckson over there, Shuckson Arm with the kind of matching.
Was that new for you?
Imbricate zone. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I've been over there, but it didn't connect over here because that's over there.
Over there, right.
This is yellow aster over here, and
so yellow aster meadows that I keep hearing about. That's up and around the corner.
Around the corner. This yellow aster butte up above us.
Yellow aster butte above us. Got it. Thank you. Okay, well, let's go up and around the corner. Can't wait. Thank you.
Look at this big lens of calc-silicate here again.
He's into the calc-silicates, I think.
Well, there's another, just happens to be bigger, but you get the idea that the blocks range in size from probably peanuts, baseballs, to human-sized lenses right here. But there's serpentinite just right above it. So it's just clearly there's the contact between the block and the serpentinite. Yeah, right, Gary's on it. Amazing.
But I don't know how to get excited about, is this a gneiss? This is a gneiss.
Yeah.
What is it telling us? It's like we were looking at the Skagit gneiss, both the orthogneises and the metasedimentaries. We can't even get started with that kind of interpretation here?
Gneiss, when you think about metamorphic rocks, we think about the layering, the layered structure we call foliation, from folia, leaf. So a schist is a foliation. Slaty cleavage is a foliation. Gneissic foliation is typically used for a crude foliation in alternating light and dark layers. So this could be kind of a schist gneiss. I don't know. But you could use the term gneiss for metamorphosed plutonic rocks. That's orthogneiss would be a metamorphosed plutonic rock. But I think we call it a yellow aster schist or a gneiss. The question is how the hell did it get in here, and where did it come from? It's again pieces of something bigger.
This isn't the stuff that came from Northern Europe, is it? Is this?
There could be. I think the Western Washington group. I think that's a good point. I haven't read that for a while, but they've looked at, maybe it's the detrital zircon population, and they think some came from Thuringia or around down. I think my comment was, how did you get it around there here? You know, you got to sneak it in. We're between Wrangell Island and the continent here, and did you bring it around Vancouver Island, or? I'm not being facetious here.
No, I got you.
Try to get into this position, which is very well defined structurally, below Chilliwack and above Chilliwack. No, yeah. How did you get it into this place? I've not been able to figure that out. If you want to bring it around the north.
But it's not just a couple of researchers, I don't think, right? For all this Alexander terrain and all these matches to Scotland and...
Yeah, so Alexander terrain, that's right. The Devonian is like the old red in the Carkeek or something. But we're looking at a block here that Alexander is part of insular superterrane. It's a huge hunk.
Oh, that's right.
But this is not.
This is not.
In a very special structural position.
Wow. Well, I just imagine, this is the last thing we'll do here, I don't know. I just imagine somebody watching some of these videos and kind of having one finger hovering over the delete button or the stop button, and we say, well, this stuff came from Mexico. Okay, I'm getting closer to my stop button. Oh wait, it didn't start in Mexico. It started from the ocean. Now he's really ready to go down. And then if we throw in coming through the Arctic, like, what are these guys doing?
Maybe Norway or something.
Yeah. What are they smoking at this
around
point?
the Horn? No, that would have been around South America.
So it's fascinating and also I suppose bewildering for some.
But as far as finding a match of this stuff right here, anywhere in the Cascades, is like here it's over there. There's a chunk.
Only in the Belpass Melange.
Right, on the south side of Mount Baker.
Yes.
There's a piece, and then there's a couple patches down towards Darrington.
That's
right.
That's it.
That's all. And in every case, there are blocks in a mixed zone, like the Belpass Melange, or maybe one of the Melange belts. I don't know if there's any down there. I don't think so. I think that's it. And we don't.
But wait, are you saying that's it for the Pacific Northwest, or that's it for California and all that we know to the south as well?
Yeah, I think did we, you brought up, is turtleback in the San Juan Islands had been, maybe someone had suggested yellow aster might be turtleback. Did you?
I think so, yeah.
But problem is turtleback is igneous, Ordovician igneous rocks, gabbros, diorites. It doesn't have calc-silicate gneisses in it. It doesn't have the metaclastic rocks in it. So they're not, I mean, and I think the age is not correct either. But,
I see.
But,
yeah. Wow.
No, I think the only place you're going to see this is in the Belpass Melange in this specific structural horizon.
Crazy. Talk about an orphan.
It is.
Huh. Thank you.
But in a nice setting, geez. Nice place and nice.
The orphan found a nice home. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna take a picture of that block there.
Okay.
I'm just gonna take a picture of that block, and then I think Liz brought
the Sherpa brought your pack. Yeah. Let me turn your button off before you go.
So white.
Old snow over there.
And it's perfectly clear.
So location is used not for bushwhack and check where it's going to go, or
yeah. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to go with the.
I can't hear what they're saying.
Avoiding the bad places and to kind of connect. Those.
Don't tell anyone how beautiful Washington is, because.
That saddle would have been one over there.
Hold on. How gorgeous that view is. For real. The Pacific Northwest is... You don't want to move, ever. Because we get this. Sure, we get, 200 days of rain, but like, for the other 160, it's amazing. Back to Minecraft. Torn. I would like to... Chickens.
I can see the road.
I don't need any melon seeds. Those can go. Sure, some of these are not ripe. That's fine. Done. But now I have some seeds to go get some chickens. Clean up my inventory so I don't have a bunch of junk with me. Go and die. It's a foolhardy mission to go find chickens. Also, I think my little house is cute. Lake house. Now, if you were with me the other night, you saw when I got all my sweet berries and jungle and dark oak. That was kind of a big exploration mission at night. Yeah, little house looks cute. It's a little boxy, you know, but you know, it's got some things going for it. Yeah. Original Minecraft swamp, before the swamp biome really came into swing. This is how swamps were. It wasn't actually a swamp, it was just different trees, different oak trees, to be clear. You know, I keep carrying arrows around because I'm so used to carrying arrows around, but I don't even have a bow. So that's dumb. Carry a couple of these because you never know when you're gonna need them. I'll grab one of these because I don't have to fix anything, and if I find lava, it would be nice to have that so that I can someday make a lava farm. Let's go get some chickens.
Let's turn you on. I'm going to step off the trail. I'll turn you on.
Okay. Well, this may not be correct, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Why not?
Okay.
What you got, Daryl?
I picked this up in that bright orange outcrop there, and I think it's what's called a silica carbonate rock, which is found in altered ultramafic rocks that themselves become altered, and it might even be called a listwanite. And that green, listwanites can contain nickel minerals. And there's a nickel mine here somewhere.
Yeah, we can take a look down.
Okay, and I'm just suspecting that little pod is a silica carbonate rock that's mineralized. And we might see more as we go over the top. Green in there, I think that's nickel mineralization. And I'm going to guess that where they're mining nickel, it's real orange rock like this.
You'll see some orange. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Nate rock. List one.
Let's find a red spot.
Oh, I hope so.
Again,
It's 1:30.
how gorgeous those views are.
So would you
Oh yeah,
call
and that's
this
all
yellow
blueberry,
Aspen Meadows?
by the way.
Okay. Oh,
Mountain huckleberry. The hiking here is fantastic. Spend your tourist money, but don't move here. You have enough people moved here. Yes, not in my backyard. I don't want 9,000 new people moving in and making these mountains apartment buildings instead by Chinese investors. Oh, right over there? Seriously? Wow. No. Also, you may notice that there are no fish in any of these waterways because this biome is a taiga, and it's not a river or a lake or any of those things because it was a forest, and then Minecraft generated biomes. Because this is a super old world, and it's one of the reasons that I love it. We're getting up onto a world border here where jungles are a little different. as these were imported in. When jungles came in, like they corrupted a lot of different world because that was the introduction of biomes. So it's not the jungle's fault, right? But the fact is that they introduced biomes as a thing and like as a proper thing on the map. And look at these chunk borders. And that update was pretty rough. It was pretty rough. Not gonna lie. This is aquatic. And when update aquatic hit, it really fucked things up for the worlds. Like that's where this came from. Update aquatic was a really great update, but its ability to upgrade worlds was pretty low. Is that iron? Huh. Well, let's see about that. I got one. There's a drown. Because update aquatic. Is that copper? Oh, 1.17. Sweet. I'm getting so
looks
distracted.
like we're kind of right on the contact here between yellow aster and Darrington phyllite, which is above us. But as you go over here, you see light-colored rocks on the ridge, and that's actual yellow aster butte itself up there, the dark top, which I'm not sure might be phyllite too.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some big mountains to the left of that, which are Rocky and Bullwinkle. American Border Peak is the one on the right, and the Canadian Border Peak on the left. The border runs kind of right between the two of those.
Perfect. Gotcha.
And scanning a little further to the left is Tommy Hoy.
Oh, it is.
Tommy Hoy's up there.
Wow. And keep going.
And keep going around, and what can we identify? Well, there's the top of church is showing up over here, and
okay.
That's Canada over there.
In distance.
Yeah, and I get lost as soon as I cross the border. I don't have a map for over there, so I don't know what anything is over there. And then to the left is I was talking to Daryl. The kind of gentle-looking ridges. That's almost, I think that's all Nooksack. Until just behind this little knob right here, the top of which is Darrington phyllite. And then there's the White Mountain back there, the volcano.
Yeah. Do you remember its name?
Culshan.
Well, what a delight to be with you here today, man. Gee whiz. Oh my God. Liz has coverage up here? Oh. Okay. Well, what a lunch spot, and also a little place to chat with Daryl.
Yeah.
Same time. We'll multitask.
Can we have lunch?
No
first?
chickens.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Very strange.
Okay, you want to turn yourself off? Well, that was a nice lunch. And before we start heading back, we're enjoying this amazing Tuesday afternoon, courtesy of Gary. And looking down on Yellow Aster Meadows area. A couple little tents set up down there. And Daryl had a few things in his pack.
Oh, there's Spawn.
And I'd love to be able to chat a little bit with this wonderful backdrop as well. Daryl,
Yes.
what do you got there?
So I brought up, I think we should start with Roland Tabor's map, Roland Tabor's and others of the Mount Baker sheet.
Good.
And I'll unfold it here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we don't need to do
Oh, well.
the whole thing.
Don't have to
but
go crazy,
could have been
right?
bad.
But we might have something.
we will have something here. And for reference, Mount Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Mount Baker.
Good.
Mount Shuckson
Yep.
is over here.
Okay.
Let's see, I think. Glacier, where we started, is here, and now we are up in this area here in Yellow Aster Meadows. So we drove up here and then hiked up.
Come on, Gizmo.
Hiked up.
Gizmo's misbehaving. Got it.
Okay, hiked up into this zone here, which you can see is complicated. It has a lot of different map units in it. However,
Hello, chickens.
the overall layering, structural
We're gonna
layering,
go this
Peter
way.
Misch,
Oh my God, it's all of the chickens.
figured out in the 50s and 60s. I'm going to go from the lowest unit, the Nooksack, which is this light blue. Of course, it has a big volcano in it, but the light blue, that's lowest.
Okay.
And then what's shown here in the browns and the gray is the Chilliwack unit and the Church Mountain Plate. And then sitting above that is the Darrington Phyllite and
chickens.
Shuckson Green Schist and Blue Schist. We call the Shuckson Metamorphic Suite or the Easton.
Really only need two.
So the stacking is lowest, next wraps around here, and then highest all the way down here is the Shuckson Metamorphic Suite.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is that this zone at the base of the Shuckson, called the Shuckson Thrust, or now the Bell Pass Melange, is a mappable unit. And melange means mixture, and it has a lot of different rock types in it, including the Darrington Phyllite and the Chilliwack, but some other, we can call them orphans or strangers, and we don't know. We don't know. They're fragments of much larger terrains, but we don't know where they were derived and how they were derived. But they certainly got into this mixed zone that in its general disposition gives you the overall feeling that things are stacked up in a more or less horizontal fashion.
Sure, yeah.
The yellow aster, which we've talked about, is this brown, and it has a variety of rock types. We've seen serpentinized ultramafic rocks, calcsilicate gneisses, but mixed in also we can see Darrington, the light blue, and Chilliwack is the brown. So that was the goal of our hike.
Yes.
That gives the overall setting. One thing we've talked about, and Gary asked also, that the only place you find yellow aster is here in the Bell Pass Melange. It's nowhere else in the North Cascades, the western Melange belts, nowhere else east of the Straight Creek Fault, and it may well be the oldest rock unit if it is indeed lower Paleozoic sediments, the oldest rock unit in Washington.
In Washington.
And maybe
Jesus.
Oregon. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here it is. I mean, it's beautifully exposed.
So, you know what? Before we fold that up, if you don't mind, anything here that you love being insular, or anything you on this map that you love being intermontane?
No, I would not. I knew you'd ask that. But to me, this whole system, the Northwest Cascade systems, which we and Ned Brown and others think extends into the San Juan Islands, that's its own system of tectonic units that to me is separate from insular, which is on Vancouver Island. And there is no insular over here. Intermontane terrain, no. There is intermontane terrain, as other people have speculated it might be in the Napiqua or over in the Skagit part east of the Straight Creek Fault. But no, this system it's something that I think is in between the insular and the intermontane.
And Bob Miller, a couple of videos ago, was mentioning that, I guess he said Jim Monger had this kind of scenario where you got some smaller things caught in between the two big boys.
I think that could well be.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. So,
but wait, he's got more. He's got more. No, this is good.
Yeah, I've
got.
Good. This is a publication by Peter in 1966 from a very sort of gray literature, obscure thing, Symposium on the Tectonics and History and Mineral Deposits of the Western Cordillera in British Columbia and neighboring parts of the U.S., Canadian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, Special Volume 8, 1966. But Tectonic Evolution of the Northern Cascades. And this is where Peter laid out all the work that he had done and his synthesis, the rock types, the geology, after he got to Washington in the early 1950s, right up until the 60s. And it's an amazing compendium. You notice I got it when I moved to Washington, and I've got little pencil comments here, like unconformity, what? But he goes through the summary of the rock units and the geologic history, fragmentary record of early history, the Yellow Aster Complex. I have note well exotics. I have a question mark here. But let's get to what Peter did. These are all my musings. Here's the overall. This is south. Here's 48 degrees, so we're up north. But he also included all of this area. Here's Straight Creek Fault, Marble Mount, New Halem. But where we are in this part, here.
What a treat.
Yeah, so there's his figure diagrammatic map.
What
glacier.
A treat. Oh my gosh.
Notice the black, that's Yellow Aster.
Yes.
This is the Shuckson Metamorphic Suite, as he called it, Easton Metamorphic Suite. Not only there, but also over here, kind of in the foothills of the Cascades. There's Mount Baker. This is Chuckanut Formation and the Chilliwack. So here's the stacking. There's Nooksack down there, Chilliwack here, and then Shuckson all the way up on top. And the Straight Creek Fault, plugged by the Chilliwack batholith, 35 million years old, and geology to the east is different. That's the Skagit Metamorphic rocks. But here it is. I mean, and of course the Twin Sisters, this amazing chunk of very fresh mantle rock that are also caught up in the zone here. So you'll notice if I just trace my finger from here where we are, along here and down and up here, that's the Belt Pass Melange and the Shuckson Thrust, and the call it imbricate zone. That's kind of what we're in right here. So there's the basic structure, which I don't think has been, of course, a lot of more detailed mapping, but that perseveres.
So if you don't mind, you show up almost a decade after this thing's published.
Yes.
He gives this to you, or you somehow get a copy. Is he walking you through all this stuff and trying to help you get your feet, or is he like, he kind of half throws this thing at you and say, good luck, you know, this is what I know?
I think what he would do is he would lead field trips with graduate students and maybe some faculty, and we'd, the first day we'd go to Marble Mount, we'd stay in Marble Mount, then we'd go into the Cascades as far as the Ross Lake Overlook, and he'd talk about all the units, many of which Bob Miller just talked about in Statia, and then we'd come back out and we'd come up the Nooksack River and we look at Nooksack. I don't think we went as far as Mount Baker, the ski area and everything, but it was, I don't think I ever went out in the field with him alone. I think it was the field trips and then just talking about what he had done.
Is that kind of weird? Like, you're not a grad student, you're coming up to be a structural geology professor.
Well, I've told this as kind of funny. When I arrived at UW, Peter very kindly took me around the department in the hallway, and he said, "Well, he'd like you to meet Darrell Cowan, who's here to teach undergraduate structural geology," which I did. And by golly, Gary, sitting right
one
over
of your
there,
students,
found my labs and my exams from Geological Sciences 340, structural geology.
yeah,
So,
we were looking at those last night.
yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so one last question
Yeah,
then. So you're looking at this when you first arrive. Do you think you're going to be spending a career on those units, you know,
Yeah,
what did you think
shiny
you were going to be
boots.
having your graduate students do in those first
well,
few years?
I got involved in the San Juan Islands. I mean, thanks to John Whetton, and
Pretty early on.
that was like, I think I first did my mapping and studies in '76.
Okay.
Then a lot of graduate students, Mark Brandon, John Garver. So I was out in the San Juan Islands. But look at what I wrote here. Study Shuxon Plate Imbricate Zone.
Oh.
Now that, something about this, because of its melange-like character, the mixture and the imbrication attracted me. And I did come up here in 1992, we can get to that in a minute, to look at it, but I never really did any field work up here. But I was intrigued by it.
Now,
Here's Peter's sketch of the northwest face of Tommy Hoy Peak, which is that. Is that?
Yeah, now
Yeah, that's Tommy
we're gonna
Hoy.
have chickens.
He's got
We're gonna
movement
have
plains in the
chickens.
Chilliwack. Those would be faults, volcanic
Sweet.
rocks, well-bedded graywacky slate, subordinate. But he was a big sketcher.
Oh yeah, I love sketches.
But he did take photographs of tectonic slicing near Winchester Mountain. You know, that's kind of what that probably him. So I did come up here with Mark Brandon, who was then at Yale, my PhD, good, very close friend and colleague. And there are my notes, imbricate zone. And ironically, 30 years ago to the day, August 22nd, 21st and 22nd, 1992, I came up.
For just a second.
Yeah. And we were looking for, one of the questions is, which direction did these plates, pizza boxes, the plates move, to the west or more to the northwest as other favors, or to the north, others favor. And
Thank you.
so we were coming up here looking for, in the rocks, the record of movement directions, kinematic indicators. And maybe whatever I found here, you know, phyllite on southwest Yellow Aster Butte, up toward Tommy Hoy, so I guess I went up there. But where we could see P&R, that's our kinematic structures, top to the west, no lineations, very difficult to try to get a synoptic movement direction. But I was here, yeah.
Why were you here?
Well, because I think I was interested in this term melange and the different kinds of melanges. And I wrote a paper in 1985 called Structural Styles in Mesozoic and Cenozoic Melanges in the Western Cordillera, Western North America. And one of the types is like muddy debris flows, where you have blocks of different rocks in a scaly, muddy fabric. That's Franciscan type. But one of the types I called imbricate zones, where you have slices like we can see here. You can draw lines around the slices, and imbricated means like shingles on a roof. You know, they're kind of imbricated like that. So I think I came up here because it's sort of a type example of what people would call melange. The problem is, sometimes when the term melange is used, it connotes, it's a subduction zone like Cascadia, but you can't, you've got to go beyond that and kind of think, how did it really form?
Well, related to that kind of, I guess, it's come up a few times in the last 24 hours. Western Melange Belt, Eastern Melange Belt. You seem to have some interest even now in some of those sandstone, a block of sandstone you can knock off in the Western Melange. Why are you interested? Why are you sending a sample to whomever?
Oh, I think to Stacia.
Yeah.
I have sent samples, and I think it's because they're very poorly understood and poorly understood, exposed rocks, except in the eastern Melange Belt, like the high peaks. But you don't see a lot of continuous exposure, and I think we don't even know. We don't even, if you say melange in that case, maybe you're thinking about, are they big blocks in a muddy matrix? We don't see the matrix. So I'm curious about what's the range in ages in there, and how did these things form? Is there anything we can get out of it? What are the youngest components in there? In fact, I think Jamie McDonald did some detrital zircon work, and there could be sandstones that have zircons as young as 60 million years old. I mean, that's getting into the early tertiary. And so it's more, you just don't see this. And
Yes.
But I'm curious about it.
Well, one more on the western Melange Belt, or the eastern Melange Belt. Are they potentially key players in the Baja BC discussion?
I don't know. I don't know. I have a suspicion they are later than everything we're looking at here. If it has 60 million year old sandstones in it, this was dead by 100 basically. So there might be a younger story there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. That was delightful.
I love talking about, especially here. Wow.
Yeah,
30 years later, I made it.
We're not in a classroom anymore, man. This is the real classroom.
This is it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for hauling those up. They must not have weighed too much, I guess, in your pack. Oh, boy. And I thank you again. I thank you every hour. Go ahead, yeah. Thank you again.
It's been great. You can listen to him just keep going.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is only your 170th time up here, and you're still willing to take us up.
Say, well, all right, eastward subduction to California. What about up here? You know, well, what it's called, the 10 Sleep is Pennsylvanian, and what are the other?
Flathead quartzite.
Flathead, that's Cambrian. That's basal Cambrian.
Oh, I see what's going on here. I didn't have enough room to. I had to go up to go down again.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so there's where were we? Were we Devonian?
Flathead is Cambrian. Bighorn is Ordovician.
You guys talking about Rocky Mountain stuff?
Yeah, I know. Look, this is not the Rocky Mountains.
The Rocky Mountains are very.
Oh, okay.
They're very even.
Did you make this, and what year did you make this, Gary?
I believe that this is a cross section I made for. Is it Geology 340? 340.
Structural Geology.
I took from the gentleman sitting to my right in 1976. He made us draw all this stuff out and put in faults and.
But I did write beautiful up there.
Is that yours?
No, I don't think it is actually, but it is beautiful. It is beautiful. Yeah.
Nice colors. It's almost like I got those from Patrick.
It's professional. Yeah. Really
So
good job.
that was your second year of teaching.
That's right. That's right. That was my second. Let's see, 74. That was my second year of teaching. Yeah, yeah. We do 2 sections of undergraduate structural geology every year, with maybe 40 students. A huge number of majors back in those days. So, yeah.
So Gary's got his old papers from back in the day, but you, Daryl, wanted to bring this.
Yeah, I want to show you when we yesterday when we talked about, we looked at the map where we were up at Yellow Aster Meadows, and we saw everything in map view. But of course, geologists like to see the geology in cross section, as if you dig a vertical trench, down 10,000 feet, and look at everything in profile view. So Peter. We're back to Peter. He made these sketches. Like, if you want to grab, we'll look at this. This is the main one. He made these sketches between the 49th parallel and Nooksack River North Fork composite section. So we go from east to west. This is 49th parallel, but this is where we were yesterday. This is, here's Shuckson, here's I think I saw Tommy Hoy. We're going to look now at a drafted version of this, but this is Nooksack in a big window. So this is the shucks and thrust zone. This is shucks and Darrington phyllite, and the red colored blobs here are yellow aster, tectonic slices of yellow aster in the imbricate zone, or what we now call the Belpass melange. That's a new term. That wasn't known to Peter. But here they are, and there are a couple of other ones over here, but the whole layer, structural layering is here. This is Nooksack, and here's Chilliwack in here with the Shuxon imbricate zone, and then he drew the Shuxon thrust over a big window where that's just a look down into lower structural units where Mount Baker is, but it doesn't show up here because we're north of, but Mount Baker window.
Can I say something
Sure.
about that too?
Yeah.
Which really
Please.
I found amazing as I was learning about it is the Nooksack's down at the bottom of the pile, and it's rather gently folded.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Chilliwack is older, and it's on top. And I know Roland Tabor and Ralph Hagerud in their books say much of it is severely folded, and a lot of it's upside down even.
Yes.
And you know, it's like it's just amazing that that's on top of the younger stuff along that thrust fault.
He actually illustrates it here. We'll look at the drafted version, but you can see the gentle folding, and here's Chilliwack with a lot of folding over here. Early Pennsylvanian limestones, overturned folds. But you asked me about this, and my answer was sort of the Nooksack is mostly sandstone and mudstone, and it's like a rigid beam. It doesn't have a lot of alternating layers, which typically are easier to fold. They buckle, and you're trying to buckle this whole thick 7,000 meters. Is that what we read? Something like that, or thousands of meters of Nooksack, and so it's sitting there and not able to buckle up like the Chilliwack, which is has a lot of bedding and limestone in it. I think maybe that's the difference.
Buckle at the same time, or is the Chilliwack being older buckle before that?
It could have been. It could have been. It could have had earlier structures in it that are shown over here, because the limestones at Chilliwack Mountain are beautifully folded, recumbently folded.
So that's an original by Peter
This,
Mish. How
yeah,
did you get a hold of that?
all right. Peter Mish, that's his little logo, October 1983. And then he had our draftsperson, which I'll show you when we had a draftsperson, Floyd Bardsley, draft this up, and that's what's here. And I think how I got it, to be truthful, when Peter died, I went in and helped organize and clean out his office, and I was able to get a lot of the valuable material, like his manuscript maps of this area where we were, that were never published, but they're topographic maps with the geology in black line, and I took all those, including his field notes, the field notes from his PhD in the Pyrenees, to the University of Washington Library archives, where they're there for any scholar to come in and use. But for some reason, I retained these, I don't know, maybe to show students about what Peter's work was. So here's his, the drafted version. There's Peter Mish, 1983. This is the one we were just looking at with some geographic notes, Granite Mountain, Tommy Hoy Peak. We were sitting just south of Tommy Hoy Peak. So we were kind of looking at that. Mount Baker window, there's the gently folded Nooksack and the volcanic rocks underneath, and here comes Chilliwack with all the folding over here. American Sumas Mountain, Bitter Mountain, that's right just south of the Canadian border, I think, over near the Puget Lowlands. But here's the yellow aster. You can look in his legend, YA, tectonic slices of yellow aster complex, Precambrian, Caledonian, that's okay, crystalline basement, but they show up here, and even some apparently over here.
Gary, is this your first time seeing something like this?
I've never seen this.
Wow. All the time?
Not Peter's.
These were never published.
Never
No,
published?
because Peter died in 1987, and I don't know of any place they would have been published.
Yeah, well, I graduated.
Yeah, I
so
know.
I missed it.
I was still a young professor then. Yeah.
Somebody, I wonder why somebody didn't take these, like, I don't know. I don't know this area well enough to know if this is like super important to see these relationships, or this is everybody knows this stuff now, or like,
Well,
where are we?
Peter was definitely done doing field work in here. In fact, I think he'd done most of the field work by the time he published the bulletin we looked at before, 1966, but he knew the geology.
Okay.
And since then, there have been, I think, Western Washington University, there have been students up here doing more detailed mapping, but most of which is probably in master's theses.
Yeah.
But I can't recall of any place this would have been published.
Yeah. Well, that's a treat. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad I saved it.
Yes. Thank you for thinking to bring it. And I think
They're beautiful.
we got Hildebrand laying over here. I don't know. I do have. So
This portion of nether
No, you would
was
want to
generated
use this
before
okay, you can
there was
put that
like
with it.
any kind of real
if you
nether.
guys just wanted to
So
page
this
through
nether
some of these
waste
are from
is
my
truly a
backyard
wasteland.
things
There
at the
are
beginning of
glowstone,
what we were
which is
doing.
great, and there are pigmen, and there is
I was
netherrack.
struggling without
That's
ever
it.
having the
It's just a
luxury of being
resource pack
here
look,
like
but
we
I don't
were
think there's
yesterday,
actually.
but
I don't think that this is actually
is there
gold.
anything there from either you guys?
That's just regular netherrack.
Ring a bell, or you want to expand on it, or
It's
maybe
a-
based on
it's a
what we saw
challenge
yesterday, that's a
In
place
this
to
world,
start. Tell us again, please.
to find
Peter,
stuff.
Which in these sections
Oh
did
my
we actually
God.
see yesterday?
Well, the last 2 days we saw that the Darrington and Shuxon, the eastern, or we call Shuxon metamorphic terrain
Gravel.
at Easton. So
Oh
we
yeah, that's right.
definitely saw
And
that.
gravel.
We saw the Nooksack.
Yes.
That was our first stops, I think. We were in the Bell Pass Melange yesterday, which has a real mixture of different rock types. Huge block of Twin Sisters Dunite. We did not visit that, but importantly, the blocks of the Yellow Aster complex. These are the old Paleozoic metasediments.
We got here sticks and a chest.
Ultramafic rocks might be in here somewhere, but
Wow, somebody
that's
was
what we
holed up
spent
here for a little
yesterday
bit.
in, looking
It's not
up
me.
at, or down at the Chilliwack terrain, which we didn't actually go up and touch,
That's a
but
good
we think
sign.
we might have seen
That's a
blocks
good
of it
sign.
in here. Peter thought Yellow Aster complex was the basement to the Chilliwack, but that's never been confirmed.
It is not.
No, it's not. There's no place you can actually see it, and the only place we see Yellow Aster is in here.
Well, my eye is
It's
struck
risky.
how in time these are so different than this. Can you, either of you, comment please on why don't we have an old history here? Why don't we have a young history here? Deceptively simple question.
Yeah.
Because they're, shall I use my favorite term, they're hats without heads. And if you remember from Peter's, they're relatively thin sheets over extensive areas, naps, and they're fragments of once much larger terrains, and they're missing whatever they were deposited on or made on. So the Chilliwack's a good example. It's an Upper Paleozoic Devonian to Upper Paleozoic, maybe even Triassic arc assemblage, but what was it built on? Continental basement, oceanic basement? Was it continental margin? Was it out in the ocean? We don't know because the rest of the story is gone.
Yeah.
and
or
that's
it's somewhere else.
It's somewhere else. That's right, and we would like to know where the rest of these hats is.
And we also touched on melanges in general. Are these the three main units that come to mind in the North Cascades that are under your category melange? Or no, I guess we'd have to throw in western and eastern as well.
That's okay, but I mean, we talked a lot about Napiqua, and Gary's seen a lot of Napiqua, and I caught a little bit in your videos, but how would you characterize Napiqua? Melange or?
I never really thought of it myself as melange. A lot of it's very schisty, or even we look down towards Dome Peak. It's down in there. It's almost orangish, nice. And then as you come further, that orange kind of sticks with it. But then there is those amphibolite pieces in it, which I guess could be melange in there, that are striking across some of the higher peaks where they're very visible and they're very dark.
Like lenses or lensoid bodies of amphibolite. Yeah. We typically, in my experience, when we're looking at these are medium or high-grade metamorphic rocks that have a beautiful foliation and boudinage, and that in high-grade metamorphic rocks like that, we don't speak of melange. We use it for lower-grade mixtures with a matrix of whatever's over here, which you can't see, clay, scaly clay, maybe serpentinite.
So they're more kind of distinct, different blocks in a melange, and the Napiqua, maybe they're there, but they're more smeared out.
Yeah, I think they're the pictures I've seen, and a little bit in the field. They're highly foliated, strongly foliated blocks, and rigid blocks like amphibolite, which were basalt, metabasalts or something, become pulled out in the foliation and boudinaged. And but in that visit you made with Bob Miller and Stacia Gordon, where you walked up at that, I think it was John Pierce Falls, and you walked back on a little trail. That's a beautiful example. All that is metamorphic layering, not original stratigraphic layering.
So that was a little Napiqua. Off the top of your head, how about half dozen other locations that I say Napiqua, where can I go see Napiqua? All through the North Cascades.
Well, one of my favorites is there's this little piece on the trail up to Horsehead Pass out of the Twist River side, and we went up there with our son I don't know, a long time ago, and he loved it. He came because you're in all this orthonise. It's just boring, and then all this layered, twisty stuff with colors, and he's like, "Wow, what's this about?"
God, go!
And it's
Jesse.
only this piece. It's only like 200. 300 yards wide, and I guess that really struck me, that it's so narrow. And then I've been in a flight like over the Napiqua River itself, and when you see it there, I mean, you can see layering basically from the valley floor up to the top of and from 4,000 feet up to the over 8,000 foot summits. The whole thing is just layered up. So that's one, and then the other one that really surprised me was up north of, just north of New Halem. There's one of these little 200-yard wide orangey Napiqua things that wraps its way up into the Mount Triumph over towards Mount Despair. Yeah.
Mount Triumph.
And the other one, I guess I think a lot of Napiqua. The south side of Dome Peak in the Glacier Peak Wilderness is really striking, because you have this orangish, roughly orangish rock that's just flying through the side of the mountain. The top of the mountain is this bright white cloudy pass granodiorite, which is Miocene.
That's the younger one.
Much younger, but there's dikes of that are feeding its way up through the Napiqua. It's just really spectacular to see that from.
Work out a path to where there is stuff.
In the air.
Well, that's how we'll finish, because so on Mappy McMap.
Oh.
The way you're describing Napiqua is so kind of
thin and squirrely and flying through here and everything else.
That's big and fat over here.
Big and fat over here. So, let's see. That's not the. Well, first of all,
That looks familiar.
that's our friend from.
I think I've seen that a few tens of times.
But then zooming in, does it really? I mean, from the way I was trying to present Napiqua, it was, you know, 2 major blocks, but you're saying it's, once you get down to the ground here, it's way more, there's little stringers of Napiqua all over the place.
I think there's like I see there's a big band of it. You know, it's all on the west side of the Straight Creek Fall, or east side of the Straight Creek Falls, and also east of the Chewacum Rocks.
Which are here.
Which
Is
are,
that Chewacum? Yeah, that's Chewacum Windy Pass. Okay.
yeah, and so there's this kind of a central band that starts down in the Napiqua, north of the White River Shear Zone, and then that all gradually tapers as you go further north. But then, kind of to the
Redstone contraptions
either
are
side
now
of it, there's
within
these
our
little-
grasp.
I guess they're on the. To be on the east side, there's a strip that kind of goes up right through the kind of the middle of the orthogneiss, and then there's the one on the edge.
Which would be over here now, when we're big orthogneiss here, west of the Ross Lake Fault.
Right, west of Ross Lake
Yeah.
Fault, and then there's that other one is that Twist River Schist.
Oh yeah,
which
yeah.
oh,
That's
Tabor and Hagerud, they've been showing that as Napiqua, and I think that little stringer I was talking about, Horsehead Pass Schist, is a piece of that.
that'd be. I mean, here's Metal.
Yeah.
So that's going to be over here. Another one of the family of Ross Lake Fault zones. Would you think?
Yeah, well, it's just inside
Okay. Okay.
on the Chelan Block.
Well, I'm just seeing right now. Remember, I was asking yesterday, like, where's the Skagit up here? Where's some of the Napiqua up here? And at least the way I'm trying to draw it, there's no brown Skagit on the other side. Is that real?
Well, I don't know. So let's see. This is, you got WR for Wrangell, maybe or maybe not.
I miss Silk
and,
Touch.
Where NO would be the Quake Fault. I think of this. Nooksack. Okay, that's called Harrison Lake up there. I think.
Yeah, well,
Harrison Lake.
obviously this looks unusual
Yeah.
because I don't have all the Pluton material.
Yeah,
right?
that's
I'm
true.
just trying to get, so you're like
So
trying
the-
to get your bearings.
So the plutonic belt, I think, is going to be right in here. And I don't know. I just haven't looked at a map for a long time, so I'm not sure. But
And this is the border, Canadian border,
yeah,
about like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's cool.
Well, just
Yeah.
below Vetter.
yeah, just below.
Actually, you know what, Gary? What is the other side? I put
Oh.
the border in, but there's not a whole lot different except the road.
For example, here's Mount Stewart, is in here. And up here is the Spuzzum Pluton, which we all agree, I think, is the offset equivalent of Mount Stewart. And this intrudes Chewacum, and this intrudes what's called the Old Settler Schist, which people have correlated with Chewacum. So we can see units here. I don't think there's any Ingalls ophiolite up here, but we can see east of Harrison Lake the corresponding units to Mount Stewart and Chewacum, and then other names up here. And I think to the northeast of that is our possible Skagit, a lot of plutonic rocks and gneisses that might be equivalent to the Skagit. But I'm not going to go any farther because I'd have to look at maps up there, especially of the Harrison Lake area, and like the Quake Fault. I know that came up. I think Jerome Lessman might have mentioned it in there, but that's some pretty high-grade rocks, and it might include orthogneisses.
Well, I'm chipping away at trying to grasp a few things, and yesterday and the day before.
huge step forward, Gary. But I gotta be patient because I'm not going to be able to. To me, I want this stuff beautifully right up there, and I can't do it because of geometry. Fault geometry, for instance, uplift, everything else. I also can't do it because that damn coast belt complex has invaded almost everything up there, I guess, right? So it's just unrealistic to want to see everything up there on the west side of the fault.
Remember when you were talking to Station Bob, this whole question about the elevator, you know, and the incredibly interesting uplift history of these rocks over here, very young. So you look at the Straight Creek Fault and we think right lateral, you know, that we can take this and move it up here, but the metamorphic history and the burial and uplift history of this stuff is just so different from what we have over here. So you've got to have, I was thinking about this morning, is the Straight Creek Fault a big dip slip fault? It was dead it was only active from 48 to 35, and then it was plugged up. So a lot of maybe it was an important dip slip fault, but
the Straight Creek?
Well, that's when some of this stuff was coming up very rapidly, was like 54, 53. I'm just caught that. But this is Station Bob's problem.
Yeah,
so it could have been. I mean, this stuff. Stuff has just had a lot of
Minecraft.
So it's going up, and
it might have been in a critical period. It could have been an oblique dip slip fault, dextral oblique.
That's new.
Well, I just thought about that this morning, and you know, because you know, Bob said, well, when was it active? Well, we've got the Teanaway Dikes and maybe 48, but what if it was active a little bit before that, and that accounted for some of this side up relative to that, this side up and north or south, because this was here, so it's clearly a deck.
Comment on the Ross Lake history. Obviously, strike slip.
Yes.
But he in that video is talking about potential core complex.
Yes.
So he's almost like saying, I'm not sure what he was saying chronology-wise. Was it strike slip first and then normal? And are you saying the opposite here, that this was maybe normal and then it mobilized to strike slip, or simultaneously?
As I remember, you were at the Ross Lake Lookout, like right here, looking at the Hosamine fault. So that's Hosamine on Little Jack, the Cretaceous, Lower Cretaceous Little Jack. So we've got Permian Hosamine ocean floor sitting on Cretaceous sediments that Peter has been interpreted as the Hosamine thrust. But Bob said, well, maybe it's been reactivated as a normal fault, and you're moving Hosamine off and looking at the lower plate Little Jack Mountain. So that's this structure.
Make sure that
here.
this
He might have made a comment about dip slip movement on the Ross Lake as well.
Save, and then I think I'm going to end the stream.
But back to your thought,
so I guess we should take a look at
who.
who.
Had the thought this morning, Daryl.
No, that's
published yet.
No, I don't think I ever will.
No,
Yeah.
I don't see anybody
are you
that's
thinking?
right now.
You have any sense if there was normal motion on the Straight Creek, if it was early and then it became pure strike slip, or vice versa?
I don't. I'm kind of putting this out on the table that could you consider that the big question that those two talked about, and everybody grapples, Ralph Haggerud, how did this stuff get up so fast before it was intruded by stuff like the Golden Horn and the Cooper Mountain? And the other thing they mentioned, which is really interesting, is that while this was hot, you've got the Chewacam structural low that's collecting Eocene sediments. So Bob said, well, it's like parts of it were hot and parts of it weren't. I don't think we understand that, but that was a really good way to put it, that within this belt, you can't consider the whole thing as integral and experiencing the same tectonics. But I think this question of how did this stuff get up so fast Was it
Yeah,
denuded
no, I know it's
tectonically,
rating right now, so
or was it,
we will just
you can
see how
always
the game
count on mantle
loads.
dynamics, something happening down in the mantle that causes uplift, and that's,
We're gonna
put the
see what
problem
happens.
down lower. But I think it's still
It's a big issue, and it's an Eocene issue.
it's an
Probably
Eocene.
not going to fit into this coming winter. I don't know, unless maybe we really focus on Baja BC shutting down and trying to figure out.
Then what happened? Yeah,
Right.
after it was all basically finished.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Anything else? That's exactly what I was hoping.
Well,
to hear, but-
another little thing.
Yeah.
This is the this is where we were. This is Mount Shuckson.
Yeah.
Hey, we survived.
Shuckson Metamorphic Suite, or now called the Easton Metamorphic
Let's
Suite,
put
because
all of our stuff in.
of this. There's, I don't know what,
in it.
I don't know if that's East. Oh, that's Cleellum, but Easton, the
Cool.
the blue schist and green schist and
bricks.
Darrington
Oh, we've
phyllite
got
were
copper
discovered
now.
here and named
We
Easton
are
by
getting
guys who 1906. No, it was Otis Smith, who did the Snoqualmie and Mount Stewart folios, the USGS. So they named it, and now, so there it is, 90 kilometers, or 90 miles. You can bring this down, and there's the type locality of Easton. So here's another question. That's part of the Northwest Cascades thrust system, not at all related to what's up here. So is there some kind of there's more, you were there with Jamie. There's more of it right there. Is there some other big boundary that comes down here that separates this core from to the west?
I can't hold it one more.
Yeah.
I know this is misleading to have so much melange there without that gold color, because of the cascade, the young cascade stuff coming up through, blah, blah, blah. But why should I care about those melange belts?
Well,
what are they going to help us in a large scale story?
I don't think we know that yet. However, when you think about what's in this thing, there are, there's the Mount Si, there's the Mount Bering, and there are these Tethyan Permian fusulinid blocks in here, but there are sandstones that have detrital zircons, thanks to, I think, Jamie McDonald, as young as 60 million years old. So the components in here are just totally younger than anything we see here in the main part of the belt.
They're similar, but they're much younger.
They're just younger, and it's so poor. So there may be a young story in here that is may not have anything to do with the 100 million year rocks here, but 60 million years ago, this thing was hopping. We intruded the Oval Peak batholith, the 64 million years. So how does what's here have anything to do with the early tertiary history over here? We just don't know. I think maybe a little more. There are not only 60 million year old sandstones, but there are lower Cretaceous sandstones. So there you go, and
aren't you collecting detrital zircons from there to potentially do the same?
I've collected a couple samples. Stacia has them, and I'm going to go with Gary up to Lake 22, where there's more, and collect some of those and have her take a look. But even now we say, well, there's 120 million year sandstone, there's a 80 million year, and there's a 60. What does that mean? You've got a mixture. So this is work in progress, we would say.
Gary, anything else?
Can I put a plug in for the Pinus Lake lava flow that we visited? Yeah, I think it's just the cutest little thing. There's this little plateau up valley in the North Fork Nooksack here. It's about 200,000 years old, and it's orphaned. It's just sitting there, and it's up like just a little table, flat on top. There's a little lake on top, and all around the edges is columnar andesite from usually several hundred feet tall, all around the but it's just so cute.
Where'd it
And
come from?
I
Where'd it
don't
come
know.
from?
Probably somewhere by Mount Baker.
There's a big
Mount Baker
volcano
volcanic
nearby.
field.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, the volcano nearby. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to put a plug in for that, just to kind of mess up the what's underneath it. So
There is a younger story here for sure. Yeah, we've kind
the
of
full
ignored.
calderas and
Well, you'll see it on our hike to Table Mountain. How old is Table Mountain?
Table Mountain up there is roughly the same age. I think a little
Okay.
older, 300, I
Okay.
think, thousand, if I remember right.
Okay.
And then
Oh,
right
good
on the
enough.
edge of the the 1.18 or whatever Kulshan
Caldera.
which is the largest,
break.
second largest eruption known in the Cascades,
Swim.
I
Wow.
believe, after Mount Mazama.
Huh.
Okay, let's finish with this. Just you verbally describing that hike we did yesterday. Elevation, bottom to top. Who can do that hike? If somebody was like, I've got to get up there and walk that sidewalk
Hey,
up in the
I
sky.
did it.
Daryl did
I
it.
did it.
We did it. But like,
Wait,
can you
Go
describe
put this trap door. This
who could do
lone
that and
trap
how
door
would they do it?
Well,
in the
I
water
think,
source
as
over here.
far as uphill hikes in the west side of the Cascades and the east side, for that
Maybe
matter,
eat some more
it's
chickens. So that
extremely pleasant because
have
you
eggs.
go up fairly easy switchbacks through the trees. The trail's generally well graded. There's roots and rocks, but it's pretty good. And you gain most of the elevation on this nice trail, and then there's a fork, and you take a fork that goes over to Yellow Aster, where we were shooting video yesterday, and that starts out. It's very gentle. It's fairly flat, and then there's a little bit of climbing towards the end to get to the viewpoint where we were chatting yesterday. But it's a couple thousand vertical feet, and 4 miles roughly each way, I think.
And that from the fork to Tommy Hoy Lake to Yellow Aster Meadows, that's a new trail. Finished about 1998, 97 or 8. Yeah, but it's a beautiful one. Yeah.
It was a beautiful one, and I know you had a major hand in that. So thank you, Gary.
A hand in it.
You're always so modest with that, but we know that you've got your fingerprints over a lot of that stuff. So thank you. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that very special episode. Thanks to Backcountry Gary Paul and Daryl Cowan and Liz Zentner. So much expertise in such a beautiful place. I think sometimes that gets lost on many of our viewers who have not been here in the Pacific Northwest. These are the places we're talking about that have these geology units, that have these stories to tell. So there's plenty of reasons to come up here. But one additional reason to come up here is to look into this old story, this old series of stories with these old exotic terrains. How far did they travel? Thank you. I love you, and goodbye.
I'm with Nick on that one. Y'all have a good night.